So Justin is amazing. He is absolutely to be on the show doing this, like he said, because he know it will help people. As you continue to listen to this, I hope you appreciate, you know, what you're hearing because this is a big step. There's a lot of us that have things in our closet that we would never talk about because of the embarrassment or just of the stereotype. But Justin, like I said, Justin is just one of those amazing people that I've been so fortunate to meet, and I couldn't be more grateful to be doing this show today because he has a heart and he's been through a lot, but he's really here to give you hope. So keep watching, continue to watch. I know the video is a little long, but keep watching because really, Justin's really here for you. And let's appreciate him for that. Thank you so much for watching.
So where were we?
You were giving medications and stuff and sent.
Yeah. Okay, so when the whole diagnosis happened, all the medication happened, they're like, um, see a counselor, psychiatrist will follow up with medications. Great, cool. So then I was kind of left on my own to figure stuff out, right? Counselors I talked to, some of them uh, had very little experience with this type of thing. Some of them had a lot of experience. So some things were helpful, some things weren't. I think because everyone is different when it comes to symptoms and I mean how you react when you're first diagnosed and stuff like that. It's it's hard for anyone to have all the answers. Uh, so like I said, from that point, from the original diagnosis, that was 2018, and then I had 2 years of um, medication adjustments, trying different medications. I tried, so I can remember all these. Uh, Latuda, olanzapine, Abilify, Seroquel, um, Epival, lithium, and I'm currently on Lamictal and Wellbutrin and Trazodone and Zolpidem. So a lot
That's a
of change.
lot. That's a lot, yeah.
And I mean, everything you try takes a minimum 6 weeks, right, to see anything.
To see it, yeah.
So we try something. If it didn't work, we'd increase it. That's another 2 weeks. So, every 2 to 3 months, or sorry,
Yeah.
every, 2 to 3 months, I was switching
Mm-hmm.
medications because what I was on wasn't working. And it is, unfortunately, with mental health, a lot of it is trial and error. If one medication worked for everyone, then we wouldn't have a lot of issues, right?
Right.
So it was difficult. There was a lot of ups and a lot more downs that 2 years. Um, and I was in a relationship at the time with my daughter's mom, and I know it was very stressful on her to have to deal with all of my constant mood changes, all the medication stuff. Uh, I don't generally like to talk about what's going through my head, but she had asked that she she wanted to know, and I told her, and I don't think she was really prepared for what I was thinking, because I really honestly, even through all that, even through all the medications and everything, I think after having the diagnosis, those thoughts of wanting to end my life intensified and increased, because I was like, well, I want to be dead before, and now I have the other thing that is going to complicate things even more.
Right.
So it was really difficult. I think it was really difficult on her. I think it did play a big role in our separation. So this is kind of for me anyway, was the turning point. So we decided we were going to separate in February 2020, and at that point, I was like, she told me she wasn't happy and she's really struggling dealing with a lot of stuff in her life, and I knew this was a big part of that, and so I said, "Yeah, okay, I get it. Cool. We'll separate and we'll figure stuff out." That
That's
same
gotta
night,
be hard. How long were you guys together, if you don't mind me asking?
4 years.
Three.
Um, so that same night after um, we went to bed, I remember laying in bed thinking, well, the only thing I was really holding on for was my family. Like I had a family. So when we decided to separate, I was already at a really low point because I was dealing with all this stuff and all these changes. And I thought, after we went to bed, I thought, well, this is it. I've officially ruined another person's life. I've made her miserable, and my only job in a relationship was to take care of them, keep them safe and happy. And I was falling very short, and I did the opposite. I felt, and I looked at my daughter and I thought, if I'm doing this to an adult, if an adult is not able to deal with this stuff, what's going to happen with when my daughter is, even a little bit older, like a couple of years older, and she can start comprehending and understanding. So I decided that night after we spoke that I was going to end my life. I put a lot of thought into how I was going to do it. Um, I decided that I would do it after we actually separated and like we were away from each other. I sold a lot of my belongings to try to save as much money as I could so that when I did do it, I could leave something for my daughter and her mom. Um, we were engaged at the time, so she gave me back the ring. And so I kept the ring and I put it with all the money that I had after I sold all my stuff. Um, and it was like, it's really stupid thinking back to it because I'm a planner. And even then I was like, even though I was planning to end my life, I was also planning just in case my life didn't end. Because I've seen it so much in mental health where people attempt stuff and it doesn't happen.
Right.
So I was also making sure I had stuff I needed for my daughter, like clothes and a bed and stuff like that, so that if something did happen and I was still here, I wouldn't be left with nothing to take care of her. So it was kind of a split between like where my money went to either savings for them after I was gone or just in case so I can buy stuff I needed for her. It was about 3 weeks from then that we actually moved out. And so it was March 1st, I think, 2020. I woke up in the morning and like it was still in my head. That's what I had planned. This was like a solid plan. It wasn't like a fleeting thought. I made up my mind. I'm going to do this. So I woke up that morning and I thought, I'm gonna try to just live and see what happens. And I remember I got a gym membership because I'm like, I need to be going to the gym. I did groceries. I know like I need to eat, things like that, right? But I made it till like 11 in the morning, and I thought, I can't get away from this. Trying to live a miserable life where I felt at the time, I still felt like I was a problem for everyone around me. And so after I did that stuff, I thought, you know what, it's not changing anything. This is still what I want to do. And so I drove to my daughter's my daughter's grandma's place, and I gave her a small box where I had put all the money and the engagement ring and everything that I had that I could give her. And I left and I got what I needed. And I called my best friend, Allison. We've been friends for over 20 years now. And I called her to say goodbye after I had already uh, finished what I needed to do in terms of completing the process. So my plan was to overdose, but I mean, I'm a nurse. I made sure that what I was doing was definitely going to kill me. So I made sure I did all that stuff first. I took everything I needed. Um, and I was just sitting in my van waiting at that point for things to happen. So I called Allison and I was telling her, I said, I really appreciate all of the kind things that you've done for me and for being a friend in my life, stuff like that. And I told her what I had done, and I said, I'm just calling to say goodbye. Like, it's you're not going to change my mind about anything. This isn't a cry for help. I just want to say goodbye and thank you. Um, while I was on the phone with her, I think her husband, I'm still not entirely sure what happened, but I think her husband contacted my daughter's mom and they contacted police, and police ended up tracing my phone, and they they came and arrested me uh, and brought me to the hospital. I was in ICU for a while because by that point
You.
I was things were already starting to happen. So I was in ICU for a while, and that's a whole other experience. I I
Yeah.
remember. Are you okay? Do you need a minute?
I'm okay. Oh my
I
God.
remember even when the cops brought me in to emerge, and they were asking what I took and how much I took, I didn't want to tell them because I mean, working in that environment, I know what they're looking for.
Exactly.
My goal is not to give them any information to help me. I didn't want to be helped. I wanted to be dead. I remember laying in the ICU bed. Some of it's kind of choppy. I remember um, having a ringing in my ears that was like deafening. Like people were yelling at me because I couldn't hear them over the ringing. My vision was super blurred. I couldn't see anything. My entire body felt like numb. Like they put a catheter in me and I didn't even know. They did blood gases, which anyone who's had blood gases done, I know it's not pleasant. I didn't even know. I was in the process of exiting. And so initially I was brought to Cambridge, and then they thought that I might have to be dialyzed, that my kidneys were failing. And so they sent me to Grand River. Um, they were able to um, catch it just in time. So I do have some kidney damage from that. Uh, after they released me from ICU, I was performed and I was actually put onto the 1F unit, uh, which I work on,
Currently
which
work
has
at.
been a whole interesting experience in its own. And so even after all of that, even after I was on the unit and medically cleared and seeing a psychiatrist, I I still didn't see any purpose for me being there, for being alive. It's not like I woke up and I was like, oh, that was a mistake. Um, and for a long time after that, when my mood got really low, um, my mind always kind of went back to uh, that whole situation. And there were times where I thought I really regretted that the police found me at all. And I should tell you again, just like when you're in a hypomanic or manic state and you're not yourself, you're not thinking like you normally would. Same thing goes for depression. When I'm in a hole, all I can see is the negative stuff that's in that hole with me. I don't look into the future. And if I do, it's something that's things are never going to get better. Things are just going to get worse. I'm just going to ruin more people's lives, stuff like that, right? So when you're in those states, you are not in the right state of mind. And I understand that. But I'm also in a good place right now where I can understand that. When you're in those states, it's really hard to rationalize and tell yourself, this is
True.
me being unwell. It's because everything in your head is telling you opposite. Everything in your head is telling you, nope, this is true. This is how things are. Like, I'm a competent adult who's making these decisions because I've analyzed all the information, blah blah blah. But I'm still not in the right state of mind. So for a while after I was discharged, and I was there for I think 2 or 3 weeks. Um, for a while after I was discharged, I mean like months and months, probably for most of that year of 2020. When I had low periods, I would go back to, I really wish cops hadn't found me. I I even told myself like I shouldn't have called Allison if that's how they ended up finding me. I should have just kept my mouth shut and just been done with it. Um, but again, you're not in the right state of mind, right? So
Yes.
it was after I got out of the hospital. Actually, it was kind of when I was in the hospital. Actually, I can tell you exactly when it was. I was laying in an ICU bed at Grand River, and all I could think about was I miss Isabel, and I wanted to see her. And then it kind of hit me that I wanted to end my life because I thought it was going to be better for her. And what I was doing was completely removing her from my life. And what that would do to her down the road once she was able to understand. And I think the hardest part was thinking she wouldn't understand that for a really, really long time, she was only 3. For years, she wouldn't necessarily understand, and she would constantly be asking, "Where's daddy? When's daddy coming?" And that's not fair to her at all. So when they ask about protective factors and stuff like that, like when you're in mental health, um, I still didn't have one. I still don't. When I talk to um, counselors or psychiatrists or anything, it's just her. And it sucks that it's just her, but she's enough.
Yes. Yes.
So when I got out of hospital, I said, I can't be there again. I can't do that again. But I knew this is a lifelong illness. I knew that I had been having this issue with depression since I was a teenager, and that it had gotten this bad without me doing anything about it. And then even once I was on medication, it still got to the point where I tried to legitimately end my life. So I said, what do I need to do to not be there again? I started reading everything I could. I read everything I could find, every study I could find on bipolar 2, on what triggers people, how genetics and how that plays into it, external factors like alcohol, drug use, all that stuff. And we'll get into that later, about how I maintain my life and things. But I started reading stuff about, because aside from the bipolar, there's a PTSD and an ADHD diagnosis as well. So I read the complex PTSD book, and that was difficult because even reading the book, there's a lot of stuff that in the book as examples. I was like, oh my god, like this is my life. This is for real. And it was really hard, and I struggled to get through the book, but I knew like I really, and that's when I joined this bipolar group. Actually, I think I was part of it before, but I never really paid too much attention to it. I joined it as like a way of finding people I could connect with who understood. But once this whole situation happened, I started really looking at it as, what are other people going through? What are they doing that's helping them? What are they doing that's not helping? And the thing with social media in general is people aren't very uh, worried about what they put on social media. And I think it's unfortunate that when people are unwell, they do post things. Um, and that is not necessarily great for them. But me being at that point, starting to be in a better place and looking at the stuff people were posting, reading how they were dealing with stuff, reading those the same thoughts of hopelessness and I'm trapped in this forever. And even when I feel better, it's gonna get worse again. There's no there's no I take this medication, it's gone forever. I take my medication every day. It's very, very, very rare that I miss a day or a night or whatever it is. And even though I am so vigilant with my medications, I still have ups and downs. It's not like I take it and it goes away. And I think that's something that I've come across in people who either know someone with mental illness or uh, who just don't really have a lot of experience with mental illness is they feel, well, you're taking your meds. Why are you still having this problem? Medications doesn't make it go away. It helps. It helps you to be able to control it better, but it's still on you to
Yeah.
learn how to manage it. So that was the other part is as much as I read all these studies, all these books, all these testimonials, all these everything, I needed to learn myself because I realized I was going in and out of these ups and downs and not realizing I was in that phase or that
The
state
circle.
until I was
Yeah.
already there. I wouldn't realize that I was in a depressive state until I was already having suicidal thoughts. I wouldn't realize I was in a hypomanic state until I already hadn't slept for like 3 or 4 days. And so the sleep, like
Just before you go on, I just want to say, I'm so grateful the cops found you.
hmm?
I'm so glad the cops found you. I'm so grateful it didn't happen. You're
Thank
such
you.
an awesome person. And I can say I understand it because but I totally hear you. And I'm so, so happy that they found you.
Thank you.
And I love that you said she's enough. And that's true. She is enough. And you are enough too, Justin. You know? But no, go ahead. I'm so sorry. I just wanted to say that.
So so yeah, I really had to start paying attention to my own moods. And it took me and I'm still learning. This is not something you can learn overnight or even over a year or however long. I'm still trying to figure stuff out. But I now I have a better idea that like I know when I wake up in the morning and I'm feeling, you know, tired, even though I slept 8 hours. That's something in the back of my head I gotta say, okay, well, keep an eye on that. If I notice throughout the day I'm having a hard time focusing, like my thoughts are just cloudy and I'm just like not on the ball, like I'm not as quick as I normally am. I have to think in the back of my head, okay, keep an eye on that. If I'm less motivated to do stuff that I normally enjoy or would do, um, I have to say, okay, I have this and this and this that are all happening now.
Mhm.
This is probably where I'm headed. I'm probably headed down. So knowing that, I need to prepare. I need to tell myself, okay, it's like when you prep yourself to go on a roller coaster. As you're getting on like into the cart, you're thinking this is gonna be crazy. I'm gonna be going all over the place. I like you're mentally preparing yourself for that, right?
It's true.
Kind of the
Yeah.
same thing where I'm thinking, okay, so this is probably where I'm headed. I'm probably headed to uh, a place where I don't have any energy, where I don't want to get out of bed, where I have no appetite or even energy to get up and make food. Um, so I have to tell myself, we need to start prepping now. So part of that is for me, I had to make a whole list of things to keep myself occupied, my brain occupied and distracted from thinking negative things. So if I found that my head was going there, if I started having really negative thoughts, or even just little things here and there, I'd have to say, okay, what's on my list? Am I gonna again, everybody's list is gonna be different, but am I going to play video games? Am I going to draw? Am I going to write? Am I going to whatever it is? And I even tell this to patients I have now, make a list, because they'll always tell you, even when I was in the hospital, coping skills, deep breathing, the five things, something you can touch, something
Strategy.
you smell, all
Yeah.
that stuff, right?
Concepts.
Those are all like across the board standard stuff, but it doesn't always apply or help everyone. You have to find what works for you. That stuff personally doesn't really work for me. I have had uh, quite a few panic attacks in the past, so deep breathing for me doesn't work. It sometimes makes it even worse. So I have to come up with things, and my list is not a definitive list of, well, if I'm feeling this way, I should do this thing, and then I'll be okay. I tell this to people too. If you have a list of say 10 things, you try the first thing. The first thing isn't working for you, go to the next thing. If that doesn't work, go to the next thing. You go all the way through that list. And once you get to the bottom and you have nothing else on that list, that's when you have to say, I need to talk to somebody, because obviously I cannot manage this on my own right now. And that could be as simple as calling a counselor and saying, setting up appointments to talk, and that's a self-assessment. That's saying, am I okay enough to wait a couple days to talk to someone about what's going on? Or do I need to call crisis and tell them right now, this is what's going through my head? So it was a very big learning curve.
Yeah.
And that was just for the depression part of it. So there's the list of things to do for coping and keeping myself on the right track. I had to make a separate list of things that I had to do every day, regardless of how I felt. Working out is one of them. I work out every single day. And it doesn't matter how tired I am. It doesn't matter how I might be feeling. I get up and I do it. And it might be the crappiest workout I've ever done in my life, but doing something is better than doing nothing. And I know even those little things, even if I work out for 20 minutes and it's a huge struggle, at least I've done that, and I know I've done something to
Right.
help myself. The next thing is I have to make sure I eat. And this, I'll be honest with you, this is a big struggle for me. And people will look at me and think, you're like a 230-pound guy. How do you not eat? And I don't, there's a lot of times, and I'm going through it right now, where I feel it's just life stress and stuff. But for the last little while, I've kind of been living off of protein shakes because I have no appetite. And things like this just happen. But you have to say, I can't not eat anything. I have to do something. So even if it's just little bits of this here and there. Same thing for sleep. When people say they're in a depressive state, or they're depressed, or whatever it is, and they can't even get out of bed, I think a lot of people really misunderstand that as, well, you're tired or you're lazy or whatever it is, just get out of bed. Those times when I say it's a struggle to get out of bed, my body feels like I weigh like a metric ton. Like sitting up in bed is exhausting. It's like, it is equivalent for me to doing a full workout when I'm well, but it's just getting out of bed. And then once you're up out of bed, you still have to go do stuff. And so it's those things that I have to tell myself, like, I need to function. Not functioning is not an option, because I know where not functioning gets me, and I can't go back there. So I need to make sure I eat something. I need to make sure I work out. I need to make sure that I have a plan for the day, that I know what I'm doing. And part of that, I guess, again, is being able to assess: am I okay to go to work today? Am I able to focus enough that if someone were in distress or needed me, that I would know what to do? And there are times where I'm not okay, and I will 100% say I cannot go into work because I'm not. I value people's lives, and I don't think that it's responsible for me to just say, "Well, I need the money. I'm going to go into work, and whatever happens, happens." It sucks, and sometimes it puts me in really bad situations, like financially. But I'd rather do that than have someone's life affected in a really negative way, or ended because I did something I shouldn't have, or didn't do something that I should have. So that is another responsibility. So this is just on the depression side of things. On the hypomanic side of things, it's stuff like, do I feel like I have a lot of energy all of a sudden? And this is another thing that it kind of frustrates me because, like I've said to people before, oh, I haven't slept in like 3 or 4 days, and people will be like, oh yeah, it happens to me all the time. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, like, you probably mean you slept for like maybe
A
two or
little
three
bit.
hours or whatever a night, and you're just really tired, and that's been happening for a few days. I mean, I've literally been awake for 5 days straight. Not just that, I've been taking medications to sleep for those 5 days, and it's doing nothing to me. Anyone who's taken any sort of like melatonin or imivane or uh, trazodone, they know that stuff puts you up. That's what it's meant for, right? There are nights when I have been hypomanic where I've taken 15 milligrams of Zopicone, 150 milligrams of trazodone, and 9 milligrams of melatonin, and I am wired. Doesn't touch me. It's like I have never done cocaine, but I assume that's what it would be like. So I need to make sure that I'm getting sleep. And so even when I'm like that, I want to get up. I want to be creative. I have all these cool ideas. I've thought of all of these amazing business ideas at like 4:30 in the morning. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to leave nursing and go do this. And it's going to make me rich. And that is a very common thing that I found with people who are in a manic state is very, very creative, very, very open-minded in terms of what is possible. Suddenly everything is possible. And for me, one of the things I know specifically for me is, and you're gonna laugh, because I used to actually say this when I was dating this girl a long time ago. I used to say this to her, and it drove her nuts. I actually literally feel like I am invincible. I have done really stupid things in my life that straight up should have killed me, but I was in that state where I thought, what's gonna happen? I remember
Right.
my friends, because like I always thought this is what I meant when earlier I said I did a lot of stupid stuff. When I was younger, I thought I was an adrenaline junkie. I thought I just loved things that got my adrenaline going, which is true, but there are things that normal people don't do. So like I remember getting on the roof of my friend's car and us going down a country road at like 120, and me like letting go because I felt like nothing can touch me. What's the worst that can happen? They'll stop or I'll fall off and I'll roll for a while and I'll be fine.
Oh
Right.
my goodness.
I did I had cryptogenic organizing pneumonia. It's a type of autoimmune pneumonia. It's anyway. I was sick with it and I knew I was sick with it, but I had already signed up to do the Spartan 5K. It's kind of like Tough Mudder. So pneumonia or not, I'm doing the 5K. It took me 3 hours to do 5 kilometers because I kept having to stop because I couldn't breathe. But I did it
Oh my
because I
goodness.
kept telling
Wow.
myself, what's going to happen? I'm just tired. I'm just having a hard time breathing. It's fine. Things like that. I mean, I worked out with I had a broken collarbone, and my doctor's like, don't go to the gym. And I was like, okay. So I went to the gym and I worked out with a broken collarbone. I took a ton of Tylenol. I took a ton of Advil. Did everything I could. I went to the gym. I worked out, and after I would ice it and take more Tylenol Advil. It was dumb. I could have seriously injured myself. But when I'm like that, I can't be touched. I can't be hurt. So when I start having those thoughts, I know, okay, whoa, hang on. Maybe I'm a little bit manic. Same thing for creativity. So this is something that a lot of people say, and I've found it to be true. But so in my past dealing with patients who have had um, they, they've been in a manic state or whatever, and they've been given medication and they've come down. First of all, people love being manic. I'll be honest with you, I love being
Yeah.
manic. Everything is great. The life is so colorful. Everything is fun. It's awesome.
Yeah.
But it doesn't stay like that. It gets worse and it doesn't end well. But creativity, I always like grew up, I always drew. I loved drawing. I love sketching. I love painting. I
He's
love
amazing.
everything.
This is what he's gonna come back on the show to do because he's amazing.
No,
It's
because you have to
true.
let me finish. You have to let me finish.
Yes, go ahead.
So
Okay, sorry, I'm sorry.
being on medications, that's one thing I can say has kind of disappeared. Is I don't really have that creative side of me is kind of just gone. Like it's not like oh, I'm not in the mood or whatever. I just have zero interest in it. I used to be able to sit up all night and draw and write like 24 hours straight of just drawing. I would lose myself in time and not even realize I was awake for as long as I was doing stuff like that. And now I can have everything at my disposal and have zero interest in doing anything. Um, so that was a big change, and that's something that I was going to say. A lot of people say is it takes away my creativity. Well, yeah, it did, but what's the other option? I don't take the medications and I skyrocket into disaster. Well, I'd rather lose my creativity than end up ruining my life. So um, there's adjustments, and just like everything in life, you take the good with the bad. So if the
Yes.
worst thing that I have to deal with is I don't write or draw as much or at all, oh well. I'm not bouncing off the wall spending all my money, giving away my belongings and my life savings. Um, another thing that, and this is, I'm only saying this just to explain in terms of, I feel like when people talk about mania and depression, uh, the people who don't experience have experienced it, people who haven't experienced it have a really hard time understanding that it affects you on a physiological level. So just like my body is just completely fatigued and taxed and super heavy when I'm depressed and it's hard to do anything, the opposite is true for when I'm manic. I have gone to the gym on being awake for 5 days straight, taking a bunch of sleep meds. I've gone to the gym and had the best workouts of my life. I have gone to the gym and lifted like my max for bench. I would lift that plus 20 pounds, easy, no problem. But then when I'm depressed, I will struggle to even lift half of what I'm lifting. It's the weirdest thing that
That's crazy. Yeah.
it's just, to me, it is an example of how that actually translates into how this is affecting
Mm-hmm.
me. When I'm
Yeah.
doing push-ups or lunges or whatever it is, and I do a few of them and I feel like I've been running for 3 days straight, it's hard, but I know I have to keep going. And then on the opposite end of things, where I'm lifting and I've been doing it just straight lifting for 2 hours, and I know I need to stop because I will keep going. Um, I have to tell myself, you need to walk away from this. It's not healthy. So a lot of what I've had to do on top of learning about bipolar is learning myself and how it affects me, because that Facebook group has really shown me that not everyone responds to this the same way. That
Sure.
depression
And
is, there are similarities, but there's a lot of differences between people. Hypomania, there's similarities, but there's a lot of differences between people. You know,
mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's, you can't say what is true for me is true for everyone else.
Sure.
Um,
So just so true. So true. I just wanted to go back to, that list that you came up with.
yeah.
Like, I'm just wondering, just for people watching, like, maybe someone struggling with similar, like, I'm pretty sure that was a process. That was not like overnight you like thought of it and it's like, how long did that take you to, I don't need like a number of days, but like,
Um,
what did it take to get there?
so like I said, I was trying to draw from what I knew from working in mental health was, okay, well, if I'm feeling like this, deep breathing. If I'm feeling like that, distraction, all this stuff, right? but it didn't work for me, and I started getting really frustrated. Um, and so one night I actually sat with my daughter's mom before we separated, and I said, "Can you help me make a list of things that I can do that will help distract me and keep my mind focused when my mood is really low?" And so we did. We sat there and we just started thinking of things. And I tell this to patients. Actually, I just had a conversation with a patient last time I was in about this. I said, people will give you all this advice on things that you should do to uh, avoid negative thoughts and avoid sinking deeper, blah, 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 blah. But those things aren't going to work for you if they're not things that you enjoy. Find what you enjoy and then
Exactly.
use that. I
Yeah.
enjoy working out. Sometimes, I'll be honest with you, sometimes when my mood, I can feel my mood getting low, I'll work out 2 or 3 times a day because I know that the opposite is me sitting there and I will 100% just get lost in my thoughts. I have caught myself staring off into nowhere for God knows how long because I'm
Yeah.
in my head. And my entire goal is to never, ever, ever be where I was in March of 2020.
Right.
So it's a lot of work and it's exhausting. I'll be honest with you. One of the things that I have to do on a daily basis, like throughout the day, is I constantly have to sort through everything that goes through my head. Sometimes, actually not sometimes, all of the time, when I'm in a hypomanic state, things will go, they'll an idea will pop in my head and it will go straight through my mouth. And I know I have said a lot of things sometimes that people are like, what the hell's wrong with you? But there's zero actual filter, there's zero uh, thought process that goes into, well, should I be saying this? Will it upset people if I say this? Like all these different things, right? It's like that process is completely out the window. It's just thought out my mouth. Um, but it's cheaper for actions too, you know, like I when I was before I was medicated, it's very bad.
Mhm.
I'm not medicated, I'm on medication. But before I was on medication, I remember um, I worked, how many was it? I think I worked 10, 12-hour shifts in a row. And I think 2 of those shifts were 16-hour shifts.
Oh my goodness.
And I was fine. I was like, cool, bring it on. And it didn't bother me. But I kept telling
Wow.
myself and I justified that this is fine because I'm building seniority, I'm getting money, like it's cool. There's nothing wrong with this. There's definitely something wrong with it because I'm not giving my body a chance to rest. I'm not sleeping properly. I'm not eating
Mhm.
properly. And
Right.
I am burning myself out. And it's very, very easy to go from um, a high state of mania straight into a depression. I don't find the opposite is true. I don't often find that I will leave a depressive state and become immediately hypomanic. I have found that I will burn out from a manic state and end up in a depressed state.
Yes.
So sleep regulation is huge. And I know this is something that I wanted to address because a lot of people, it comes up often in the hospital. Like people they see it. I only work day shifts. And part of that is because I worked days and nights for a long time. And I would work those night shifts and it would have, even just 2 night shifts, will have messed me up to the point where I'll go home at 7 in the morning and I'll sleep until like noon. And then I'll be up for the next 4 days. Doesn't matter how much medication I take, doesn't matter how much I exhaust myself, I'm up. And uh, it's it's something that I realized, and I fought for a long time. I fought it because I'm like, I've been a nurse for 10 years. I've been
Mhm.
working shift work for 10 years. I can do this. But
Right.
it was only until like this past year that I realized, like actually following my moods, tracking my moods, and that's something that I also do is I have a mood tracker in my phone. Like I need to be on top of this. I need to be on top of what's happening. And I realized my like things get real crazy when I work night shifts. Things
Mhm.
uh, become unstable really quickly. So being on straight days is not what I like. I actually am. I prefer being awake at night. I always have since I was a kid.
Yeah.
It's hard for me to wake up in the morning. I'm not a morning person, but every
Second
morning,
that.
yeah, right? Like, why do they even exist? So every morning, my alarm goes off and I wake up. I cannot honestly tell you the last time I've slept past 8 o'clock. Because I know if I start doing that, if I start sleeping in, it'll throw off my sleep. Even if I have nothing to do that day, I still wake up at like 7:30 because I have to stay on top of it. I have to have a routine. And part of that routine, again, is I know working out is really important for me. It's something that I really enjoy. It's something that helps keep me regulated and stable. So it's very important for me to do that. So even on the days that I work, I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, I do my workout, and then I go to work. But then I get home because sleep is important. I get home at say 7:30. I eat, I shower, and I immediately take my meds to put me to sleep because I don't want to risk. Well, now I'm awake and I don't
Right.
need to sleep. I'll skip a little later tonight, and then the next day is a little later, and then all of a sudden I'm not. It's so easy to fall off of
Yeah.
off track, and so I have to tell myself like it doesn't matter how good I feel. I need to sleep. I need to be asleep. Um, that's something I'm still working on. It's a learning process, especially having a toddler. There's times when I have her that I know I can't be taking a lot of medication because if she wakes up in the night and she needs me or something happens, I have to be able to respond. So it's a balance, right? And that's something I can say is true for uh, I would say everyone I've met who has whatever form of bipolar, that having a routine. We're really excited over there. Having a routine is really important, and I fought that for such a long time because I thought, like, well, I'm an adult, I'm gonna do whatever I want. But so I said I'd bring this up earlier. So drinking and drugs and all that stuff. I haven't drank. I think I stopped drinking when I was 26, and then it's really sad. I can tell you, I stopped drinking when I was around 26, and then between 26 to now, I think 3 years ago, I had a drink at a cottage. And then about 3 months ago, I had one beer. And I got insanely drunk off of one beer. That's what happens when you don't drink for years. But I did see that even off of one beer, I woke up in the morning, I felt like crap. Like not physically, like mentally, I felt like crap. And I was
Yeah.
like, okay, lesson learned. I can't do that anymore. And this I wanted to address, marijuana. I wanted to address this because I hear it from people on the unit. I hear it from coworkers. I hear that group that I'm in. Oh my God. Marijuana is not a cure. If you're using it as a way of medicating yourself or balancing your life, there is no way you can measure how much marijuana or THC that you are smoking. You can physically measure it. You can look at a gram and say, I haven't smoked a gram today and I'm fine. Sure. But 1 gram, you don't know how much THC is in it. You don't know how much CBD is in it. You really don't know what else is in it. And with all the different types of marijuana out there, all the different strains, everything like that, 1 gram can be different from every other gram.
True.
So you're not always getting the same thing. And I used to smoke. That's how I did sleep. I used to smoke to go to sleep. Otherwise, I'd be awake. But then I found that I got myself into a really bad cycle where the only way I was sleeping was if I smoked. And same thing for eating. I wasn't eating, so I'd smoke a little, so I had an appetite, so I'd eat. But then it got me to the point where I was smoking just to be able to sleep and eat. It took me a little while to break that cycle. Routine and balance, really important.
Is she playing? Are you supposed to be playing dress up, Justin?
I saw the what? Come
Hey, Isabel. Hi. Oh, Justin,
This is
she's so cute.
I know she
She's
gets
a
it from me. I'm
sweet.
adorable,
I'm
right? Daddy's
sure it's from her mom. That's totally it.
You.
I'm so cute.
No.
Yes,
No.
yes, love me.
No.
Yes.
No.
All right, what do you want? What do you want from me?
Is Daddy good with tea parties? Did you teach him how to play tea parties?
We had a very, very professional tea party one time with like
Oh,
fine
really?
china. It was very exciting. It was way more classy than anything I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, well, my mommy is at home.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Does she like tea parties too?
At home and my home.
Mhm.
Yes, yeah.
And that's my Kitty.
And his name is Kitty. That's why Daddy
Oh.
named this Kitty, because then she has two kitties named. What can I do for you?
Who's your favorite princess, Isabel? Do you have a favorite princess?
Yeah.
Disney princess? Who's your favorite Disney princess? You know, mine is the Little Mermaid, Ariel. That's mine.
I think it's just this. I know taste.
Who?
Mermaid.
Is it the same? Does
Who's your favorite princess?
His name is hello.
the Little Mermaid?
Oh, we just got a Little Mermaid doll, and she sings, and I am so mad because I didn't pick it out, and this thing has been singing for 24 hours now.
No.
Whoever invented toys that make noise obviously don't have kids.
And the outfit spray daddy.
Oh, yeah.
And the elephant.
Oh, the
Spray
elephant
daddy.
sprayed Daddy.
The elephant sprays.
Yes,
Did he get all wet?
I
And run away.
And he ran. It was funny to see Daddy run away from the elephants, eh?
did. Say bye.
Bye.
I'll find you another,
Oh,
okay?
she's so sweet.
I'll be right there, honey. For the record, my favorite Disney princess is Elsa. Elsa is super hot.
She is, huh? Not as hot as Ariel. My favorite is Ariel, just so you know.
Ariel's half fish. That's
So
really good for me.
rude. That is so rude. So rude. She did become a human. Thank you very much.
Yeah. I want to run that risk of all of a sudden she turns back into a fish. That'd be weird.
Oh, you like ice and stuff, huh? You're into
No,
the
I
snow?
don't, but she's
What
hot,
is
so
this?
I'll deal with it.
That is so funny.
Anyway, so yeah, I mean,
So I want to ask you this. You know, what is like being on the other side? You know, we all
yeah.
know, you know, I'm going to say this very lightly, but it's so true. You know, when I became afloat, one question I asked you is if you want to work in mental health, and I was like, yeah, I want to work in mental health. But I find like people who have not worked in mental health, you know, it was really different for me because I'm like a medicine nurse, vent nurse, and then I had to do mental health. I think you have your background in mental health, right? You said, yeah. So I don't. So I only went into mental health when I became afloat. So I find a lot of times, even like people who have not worked mental health, when you say you're going to mental health, it's like a whole. It's like that's such a big stereotype. I'm trying to say there's a big stereotype with that,
Yeah.
you know. So like tell you know, you being a patient before and now on the other side, tell me about it. Like what can you tell nurses? You know, I don't know.
I will be 100% honest, and I will say that